Here to discuss the digital dimensions then of the Iran war is Secretary-General of the Digital Cooperation Organization, Deemah AlYahya. She joins us now from Riyadh. And Deemah, it's good to have you. Thank you for joining us. How vulnerable are these cables? Is it clear?
Well, Becky, if we look at our daily lives right now, we are interconnected and we're relying heavily on digital infrastructure, from healthcare to payment solutions to even emergency alert systems, and also systems that control water and electricity. Therefore, the importance of having a robust, resilient infrastructure is increasing day after day.
So just how critical is the Strait of Hormuz then to the global digital economy? Many of our viewers will be well aware of its importance with regard to oil, fertilizers, helium, for example, but perhaps not for internet and data traffic. So what's your assessment?
Well, Becky, if we look at the international global communication, it's through submarine cables. And 95% of our data that we transact daily on a global level is all interconnected together. Therefore, it doesn't matter what piece or where that submarine cable is. What matters is protecting that submarine cable for the humanitarian either aid or civilians that are using such kind of solutions.
I wonder how countries in this region are able to protect their sort of digital and data infrastructure in the midst of certainly what we have been through and at the risk of there being further escalation. What sort of resilience is in the system, Deemah?
Well, the thing is, a very good question, Becky. The thing is that if we look at the Geneva Convention, for instance, and which established the humanitarian law that says that civilian infrastructure has to be protected, like hospitals, financial systems, water, energy water and energy establishments as well. The thing is that these laws are still inconsistent when it comes to enforcement. If we look at all of these, if we look at the infrastructure, is now moving online. Therefore, hospitals are operating online. GPSs when it comes to aviation, emergency alerts as well. So civil digital infrastructure needs to be protected, and therefore that needs to be clarified more in the humanitarian law. And to do that, this is where we need to work on creating and establishing a more robust framework that will enable that protection of the submarine cables, internet exchange points, as well as data centers and so on when it comes to digital infrastructure.
Just want to concentrate for a moment on what is going on under the sea. Or in the sea, stuff that we can't see, of course, both in the Strait of Hormuz and indeed we know that there's a lot of digital infrastructure below the waterline in the Red Sea as well. Repairing a damaged international subsea cable, as I understand it, costs between $1 and $3 million per incident, not including the value of the replaced fiber. If a cable were cut in the Strait of Hormuz, could traffic simply be rerouted elsewhere? How do you adapt, and what's the alternative here?
Well, Becky, when we look at alternatives, there are different ways of rerouting either traffic or either transforming data into satellites or either in any other technologies. But the challenge is that the more that we depend on such kind of infrastructure, then we need to protect it. The message here is not that we, after the fact, look at it when it's damaged or it's attacked, or any environmental catastrophes happen, God forbid. But we have to proactively put the right frameworks. We have to put the right policies, regulations, and we have to work on this together. It is an interconnected ecosystem, and we have to work in collaboration, not only governments, but also the providers and the private sector that can help and support in protecting such kind of infrastructure.
Gulf countries, of course, are investing tens of billions into AI, cloud computing, digital infrastructure. Where you are in Riyadh, there is a huge effort to deepen Saudi's expansion into the AI and advanced tech world, and here in the UAE and in other places across the Gulf. I wonder what the sort of risks that we have seen to digital infrastructure mean for those long-term plans. Should these countries be concerned about the resilience of these investments going forward?
Well, regardless of the circumstances, Becky, yes, they have to worry about the circumstances of any challenges that might occur to any digital infrastructure, either from a political tension or an economical crisis or even an environmental catastrophe. We do have to look at the vulnerability of the infrastructure right now and work proactively on securing that digital infrastructure, not just from a physical perspective, but also what does it mean to humanity? What does it mean to citizens? What does it mean to the quality of life of people, and also the continuity of their businesses as well? So it should be looked at not from physical, but also as a right, a human right, as important as water and electricity.
It's good to have you, Deemah. Always a pleasure. A really important conversation. Your insight and analysis so valuable to us. Thank you very much indeed.